now at 9.0, citizens participation. Lexington County School District One's Board of Trustees solicits the advice and counsel of its citizens. To encourage this participation, the board provides a citizens participation period during board meetings. In order to speak, you must be the parent or legal guardian of a student currently attending a Lexington District 1 school, a taxpayer residing in the Lexington District 1 attendance area, an employee of the district, or a student currently attending a Lexington District 1 school. You may comment on agenda items, school operations, policies, programs, or other matters. You may not speak about specific individuals, whether students or staff. We want to remind you that this meeting is being live streamed and that the recording of this meeting will be part of the public record in perpetuity. We want to give everyone who came tonight an opportunity to speak, and in order to do that, I will call on each speaker by name and ask you to approach the lectern at the back of the room. The board will not reply to your remarks nor take any action during the board meeting in response to your comments or questions. You may address the board for up to 3 minutes. Please do not clap or make any comments either while an individual speaks or after he or she speaks. As you came in tonight, you received a card to fill out that indicated you wanted to speak. That card asked for your name, address, and other information. However, I will read only your name, the town you reside in, and the schools your children attend when it is your turn to speak. If you are unable to attend this meeting, our meetings, or are uncomfortable addressing the board in person, you may reach out to the board by email, telephone, or mail, and our contact information is available on the Lexington One website. We welcome all messages. All right. First this evening, we have Ms. Jill Slatnick. She lives in Lexington and has students that attend River Bluff and Lexington Middle School.
Hello, I am a long-time listener and first-time caller. I'm nervous about being here with this many people and this many unmasked people, but I am here because I am putting children first. My children and the children of Lexington One. And I ask board members, teachers, administrators, Lexington One employees, are you putting children first? I was disheartened this week when I went to my child's open house and saw so many unmasked teachers. As a teacher, part of your job is to keep our children safe. We have to learn first aid. We have to enjoy the lovely blood-borne pathogen video every year. We do tornado drills. We do shooter drills. Part of keeping our children safe right now is wearing this mask. The reason that Lexington One and other districts were able to stay open last year as much as they did was because of the masks and the mitigation efforts, the social distancing, the hybrid schedule, even though everybody hated it. You know who is putting children first? Richland County, Allendale, Charleston. The Supreme Court today with USC and colleges can require masking. By not being able to mask or not requiring it, not standing up for it, not having the guts to do it, we are cutting off our nose to spite our face. McMaster is cutting off his nose to spite his face. we all know the CDC, DHEC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, where they stand.
Thank you very much, Ms. Slatnick. All right, next we have Ms. Stephanie Berquist. She lives in Lexington, and her students attend Beechwood and Lexington High School. Go ahead, Ms. Berquist.
Hey there. It's been a minute. Most of you know me. I'm not a first-time caller, as the previous woman stated, and I always say I just sort of ask God for a little guidance before I come up here typically. And so this was the perfect guidance. While I do not personally agree with the person who spoke before me, I respect everybody's choice. That's what's great about America. That's what should be great about the freedoms in America. That's what's great about being an adult. We can agree to disagree, and that's okay. It's always been okay. I will say I just came tonight to kind of let people know that we have not gone away. And by we, I mean the parents who continue to stand for anatomical and medical freedom for our own selves and our minor children. And although we all don't agree, I will still choose what's best for my minor children, and that should be okay with everybody. She mentioned the Supreme Court, which was interesting. It just came out a couple hours ago. I don't know if anybody knows about it, but I was going to mention it. And I wanted to come today to make sure that nobody got any sort of hairy, radical, or tyrannical ideas about possibly or potentially masking our minor children again, especially mine. That being said, the Supreme Court did rule on Proviso 1.101, which is the budget that the state passed, and they upheld that it is illegal to pass any mask mandate. So Charleston and all those other counties and everybody who is trying to overthrow the law can no longer do that, and I, for one, am very happy about that. Again, we can all disagree. I also want to let y'all know that based on my choices that are not right for everybody, but they're right for me, I pulled my kids out of y'all's schools this year. Thousands of parents across South Carolina are doing the same thing. I never thought I'd be a homeschool mom. Well, congratulations, I am now. My kids still attend sports at the schools that you mentioned, so they are in your surrounding for part of the time, but that was best for my family. I still choose what's best for my family. My husband and I choose what's best for our family. And the fact that we're about to do all the same things all over again is very disconcerting to me. You can actually look up the definition of crazy in the Webster Dictionary. It literally says doing the same thing more than once and expecting a different result. We're about to do the same thing over again and expect a different result. So I'm not going to put my kids in that. We've made a lot of life changes, and I mean big life changes. Homeschooling is a life change, okay? But that's what's right. So again, I just wanted to come and make sure that nobody was getting any crazy ideas, talk about the thing that the Supreme Court just passed, upholding that it is completely illegal to do that. So everybody who wants to send their children to school maskless, please do so. The Supreme Court has held it up. Also, I've got 2 seconds. We need to stop contact tracing. My daughter's on cheerleading. She's already quarantined for 2 weeks. School hasn't even started. Well, it started today. We need to stop that. Again, it's crazy. It doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berquist. Next, we have Claire Tidwell. She lives in Lexington, and her students attend Midway Elementary.
Hello, and I will say I am a first-time caller, so I'm glad to be here tonight. I believe most of us can agree that when it comes to school, we think the best place for our children is to be in face-to-face school rather than virtual. I listened carefully to Dr. Little's video several times yesterday. I really appreciate the straightforwardness of his message. The message I heard in the video is that administrators know what worked last year to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our schools, with layered safety approach, including masks, which kept our schools open. But we're not doing that this year. Despite a more contagious Delta variant, despite children getting infected with COVID-19, the video made it clear the school district expects that children will become infected with COVID-19, and parents need to make plans for when their children get sick, and also to get ready for virtual school because of quarantines. The proviso was passed when COVID-19 seemed to be taking a very different direction. It seemed that COVID-19 was letting up, but we know now the current direction and the current path is nowhere close to where it was in June. It's completely different. I understand there are funding threats this year. A lot has been written and said about the dangers of losing school funding if masking is implemented in districts. The most important issues have not changed. We want our children educated, we want our children to be safe, and we want our children in school. We know what has worked in the past. Everything I've read and heard has not answered several questions. I have the questions here. I hope you will think about them and consider them carefully. Would our schools have to close if state funding was withdrawn for one semester? What school programs and services would be suspended if state funding was withheld? If they suspend our schools' funding, will the legislature refund taxes that each taxpayer in our district paid for school operations? Superintendent Spearman has said that the proviso is silent on penalties. Are we afraid of monsters in the dark that may not materialize? And finally, I believe you know the right thing to do is to protect our children. You did it last year with considerable success. Why aren't we doing it now? And two, I noticed too that just this afternoon, there was a 6-page unanimous opinion issued today by the South Carolina Supreme Court, and it said, a law known as a proviso has passed in General Assembly earlier this year. Does not prohibit universal mask mandate at public universities. It worked for them, maybe it will work for us. I'm asking for short-term protocols in our elementary schools to keep our children in school and to help prevent long-term health issues. Thank you for your time and your work at the district.
Thank you, Ms. Tidwell. All right, next we have Catherine, what's her last name? Oh, I'm sorry, I see it now. Ms. Catherine Carter Jeffcoat, and she lives in Gilbert, or in Lexington, as a student attends Gilbert Elementary.
Good evening. I hope everybody had a good first day. My kids had a wonderful day at Gilbert Elementary. The team, the faculty, the staff over there is phenomenal. I just want you all to know that. I'm so impressed with the work they do. But I found out on a whole other topic, but I found out the ground maintenance contract that we had was terminated and that our custodians and volunteers are doing ground maintenance at our facilities. And so I just wanted to advocate that if there's remaining funds from the $700,000 that we earmarked for that contract in our general funds budget would be used as bonuses for custodial staff that are taking up the work of grounds maintenance, or possibly contract with local landscaping companies to meet the district's needs so that we're pouring the money back into our local economy. This also confirms a point I made earlier in a meeting about board approval or our general funds budget, that the budget can change dramatically after approval and the board may or may not even be notified or have a say in how those funds are spent. We need policies addressing these issues. The board resolution, if the spirit of this resolution is to set a tone of collaboration after COVID among all of your stakeholders, then I can 100% get behind that idea. However, I think it has kind of missed the mark. First of all, it says that the board will act as ambassadors and advocates for the district. Board members do not advocate for the district, or the superintendent, or the board for that matter. The South Carolina State Board Association's member guide says the boards advocate for children and public education. It goes on to explain how a board member will advocate to policymakers and through policymaking as representatives of the district on behalf of the community that elected you. I think that there may be some misunderstanding on this concept within our board. Also, asking the community to offer grace to the district. The definition of grace is unmerited favor. I think perhaps you're asking for understanding with all of the changes that are occurring, but if collaboration is the goal, being one community, I would suggest also asking for the community to hold you accountable to the laws and policy that govern you as a board. The focus on governance, not management. South Carolina law says, quote, each school district is under the management and control of the Board of Trustees. Management is one of your duties by law. Also, simply reminding us that we are all one community working in collaboration for education is not enough. Your actions and the actions of the district must show that this is the case. I suggest that you should table this resolution. Call a special meeting, a community forum, where where the board and the superintendent can hear from all of your stakeholders, the community, the parents, caregivers, etc., on what they would like to see the board resolve to do this year. What better way to show that we are truly one family and one community? What greater way to foster transparency and accountability between yourselves and your stakeholders? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jeffcoat. Next, we have Heather Beatty. She lives in Lexington and has students that attend Deerfield Elementary.
Good afternoon, evening, I guess we're at now. It's been a long day. Happy first day of school. These are all exciting times. I'm here for a few quick comments regarding face masks and parental rights for us, the parents, to choose for what's best for our children. Because last year, I promised my 6-year-old that I would continue to fight for her. I would fight for her. So we need to keep the rules in place that we have now. Parents, choose what's right for our kids. No study has conclusively found that wearing masks, especially the cloth ones that most of them wear to school every day, works in real life practice. It is for a respiratory disease. And that's what we're dealing with here. Viruses are going to virus, okay? And if you look at lockdowns, masks, vaccines, and every other mitigation that we have tried, very little has actually come of it. And I go back to, I also said, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again. And that's where we are. Stop listening to people that love to be scared or love to spread fear. Please, we need to keep the rules in place that we have now for parents to choose. It is my job to protect my child, mine, and I promise that I will do it. To close, I would like to say that I have a 2nd grader who was thrilled to go to school today without a mask on. She was excited to see her friends, to play, and most excited to learn. And she was excited to do those things without wearing her mask, without worrying about standing too close to her friends or hugging her teachers, worrying about mask breaks and headaches. Please just keep the current policy in place and allow parental choice for our children. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty. Next, we have Ms. Rebecca Godfrey. She lives in Lexington and has students at Midway, LMS, and River Bluff.
Thank you so much for starting sports, having welcome back nights, having all the students start on day 1, providing an online option for every single grade level, and for not forcing masks. My kids had an amazing first day. I hope you will continue moving in the right direction and revise the contact tracing policy very soon. I have seen other schools not require quarantine for healthy children who happen to be in close contact with a student who has tested positive. They are allowing parents to make the decisions concerning their close contact child because, 1, the PCR test has failed its full review. It's produced up to 90% inaccurate results. 2, quarantining with absolutely no symptoms is detrimental to a child's mental health and education. For decades, parents, not a governmental agency, were the ones who determined the wellness of their child. There have always been viruses. Of the 300 plus children who died with COVID last year, every single one had pre-existing conditions. 0 died from COVID alone. And number 3, there's an amazing medicine called ivermectin that has proven its efficacy in a double-blind study and stops COVID in its tracks. So this overwhelming fear has to go. Also, how many close contact students who were forced to stay home last year for 14 years developed symptoms? I would like to know that number. If we don't have a number to prove the effectiveness of this policy, why are we repeating it? We better be 100% sure that this is beneficial and not just take DHEC's word for it. It is very challenging for parents, students, teachers, and coaches to have a well child needlessly out of school for 14 days. Let the parents, not the government, determine the health of their child and if they should stay home or not. This policy is a complete insult and infringement on my rights as a parent. Parents, do not comply with contact tracing. We have the intellect to determine if our child needs to stay home. Also, kids who choose not to get the shot should not be discriminated against. As it stands, any vaxxed student never needs to quarantine, and all the non-vaxxed must. This is an awful policy. The vax is still in the experimental phase. Vaxxed people can still spread and catch COVID, and there have been hundreds of thousands of adverse reactions. End this policy. Finally, I want to speak on behalf of some teacher friends who still feel like they cannot express their thoughts freely, and I want to make sure that they have not received any unwelcome pressure from any superiors regarding the mask or the vaccine. Teachers are some of the most adaptable and flexible people on this planet, which they proved last year, and their decisions deserve to be respected. This district would grind to a halt without our amazing teachers. I hope you will treat them like the adults that they are and value their decisions, because they are very capable of doing just about any other job out there. Please don't micromanage them or pressure their personal choices in any way. Respect their decisions without rewarding or penalizing them. I know many wonderful families who have pulled their kids out of Lexington One because they've lost confidence in public schools. This really saddens me. I hope you will end the government overreach and restore their confidence by returning all decisions relating to health back to the parents.
Thank you, Ms. Godfrey. Next, we have Amanda Donovan. She lives in Pelion and has students that attend Pelion Middle and Pelion High.
Hi, I'm also new at this, but my daughter, she had to leave school January of last year, so she was super ecstatic to be back this year. You know, the masks were giving her headaches. This year, my son got a close contact with COVID exposure through football practice. He actually practiced for 2 days before they even figured it out and told me, and tested negative 8 days later. He was invited back to school, but he still can't participate. He can't participate in practice. He has to mask. He has to social distance. He was tested negative by his pediatrician with a PCR test that you require, and there's no science behind doing any of that to a COVID negative child. It just doesn't make any sense. Your own Onward page doesn't even say anything about close contacts with a negative test. I spoke with the AG office on Monday and was told that this was against the law for him to even be masked in school. Let's see, I understand that you're following DHEC recommendations, but I'm sorry, I lost my spot. They recommend testing close contact vaccinated students also, and you're not doing that. It seems as if, you know, things are being picked and chosen out of the recommendations, and it's just not fair. I think it's time to, you know, make sensible rules for all and follow the laws. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donovan. Next, we have Ms. Debbie High. She lives in Lexington and has students that attend Lexington High School.
I hate coming here and talking about masks and all this COVID stuff. That is not even on my agenda tonight, but since we're addressing it, I'm gonna do it, because guess what I brought? This is from the Attorney General, Alan Wilson. This is one he sent to the College of Charleston. And to all the moms who are here for the first time, welcome. Welcome. To the ones who hate the masks, the ones who love the masks, I don't care. Okay? There's also this thing called T-cell immunity for every single person who's had this. Okay, if you've had symptoms, especially that classic one of loss of taste and smell, you have T-cell immunity. That is lifelong, and it protects you against the variants. Okay, I'd like to see some of that data, huh? Come on, board. All right, this is from this summer from Attorney General Alan Wilson. So this is to one of the colleges here in our beautiful state. He says, vaccinating is a personal decision. As a result, no state institution may mandate COVID-19 vaccinations or retaliate against those that choose not to receive a vaccination. Okay, there will be no reprimand, no punishment, and no adverse consequence for any student that exercises their individual right not to receive a vaccination. Okay, and most in this community we love Alan Wilson. He's right here. Okay, we know him. Okay, just follow the law. There's a reason this law exists. Okay, and it is discriminatory, which brings us to also the 14th Amendment. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of different avenues you can take with this. Don't push us. Okay, if what has always worked is if you're sick, stay home, and if you're healthy, Mama says get your butt off to school. Okay. All right, what I really wanted to talk about is an interview that our Superintendent Little gave about 4 years ago called The Personal Journey of Education. This apparently, I guess, was published in the Huffington Post or something. A member of our community pointed this out to me, and I really challenged the board. Is this really somebody we want to be running our schools? Y'all are about to give him more power tonight with your resolution.
Madam Chair, motion to recess.
I'm sorry. Can we not talk about a public interview? I'm going to read his highlighted
We don't talk about
words.
personnel issues
I
in this
will
room.
second the motion.
This is
Dr.
not a
Powers.
personnel issue. I'm saying, is this really something that the board wants to stand behind? We really want a superintendent
We
who wants
cut
to
the
get rid of
microphone,
grades,
please.
who wants to get
Cut
rid of
the microphone.
percentages, who doesn't like the 24 graduation.
Cut the microphone, please.
All right,
Second, so we need to take a vote.
vote to recess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We're in recess for 5 minutes. Ms. Heim, I'm going to give you 1 minute. Okay. But I want to remind you that the guidelines for our citizens' participation is that we don't speak about individuals, whether staff or students or audience members. And I'm also going to remind you that this is a public meeting, and would you please maintain the decorum that, you know, hopefully we're all modeling for our children. And so you have 1 minute left. And I would ask you the information that you have, the article that you have, if you would send it to the board, we would love to look at it. And if you would like to email it to us, that would be great. I'm gonna restore your minute, but I'll remind you of the ground rules for citizens participation, and I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. I think you do a great job leading the board, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that because that singles somebody out. Anyway, this is right here from the Personal Journey of Education. It was published June 20th, 2017. And in a summary of it, it says, Little also talks about shaking up the status quo regarding letter or percentage grades and brings insight into what those grades actually mean. Part of the problem, according to Greg, comes from the fact that letter grades are so ingrained in our society that proposing change almost always poses a problem. It's important that school leadership work to provide a clear message to parents and the community to create necessary buy-in. The interview revealed that it takes a special nuance to persuade people to adopt sweeping change for our district. Okay? He says, we pride ourselves for trying to create a personalized journey for students. We're working to even rethink graduation credits and all those situations, because we talk about personalized experience, but you're required to have the same 24 credits. That's not a personalized journey. That's the same 24 credits everybody else has. So it's the exact same thing. I will say my son's high school has more than 2,000 students, and he will not have the exact same coursework as a single other person there. And there, another one. He says, what is an 87% grade? It's standards-based grading and competency-based. He doesn't want standards and
Thank you, Ms. Heim.
competency-based.
Thank you, Ms. Heim. All right, next we have Matthew Heim, and he lives in Lexington, and his students attend Lexington High School.
Hey everyone. Gosh, that was sure interesting. Anyway, I did want to say my kids started Lexington High. We went to the high school. We had to get some scheduling stuff done. Dr. Poole said hi to us. We talked to the other assistant principals, Verberg, as well as Martinez, and all very nice people. Counselors are great. We got some new ones. So just wanted to say thanks. I mean, I think it's a good school. There's really good people here. There's absolutely no question about that. One thing, though, it's already been touched on, so I won't beat the dead horse, but governance does require management. I mean, that's just a fact. This board needs to do some management. That is required. Also, who's responsible for things like recent multi-million-dollar building overages? Those things also need to be managed. These are the little things that happen when you don't manage correctly. That's a big deal. Someone earlier was talking about refunds and money. Are the taxpayers getting a refund for that? Are we getting money back? I don't think so. Those aren't things that are happening. All right, also the other thing too is who's responsible for policies and they're not being followed. You've got a superintendent, he's not gonna enforce the policy, he's gonna have the administrators do something. Whose job is that to fix it? Okay, if you have a rogue administrator, is it the superintendent's job to fix it? When does the board step in? It is your job to set these policies and make sure they are followed and followed correctly. So one of the things I also really wanted to kind of touch on is FOIA. FOIA is really interesting. The reason it exists is because lawmakers realized that governments were acting in secret and keeping things from the public. So they actually had to go pass laws, similar to this mask law, no critical race theory laws, things like that you're seeing, because they're not doing what the people want, and they're trying to keep it from them. So this district, we made a lot of FOIA requests, and this summer, we sent a personalized letter to each of you board members. And what you did is you gave it right back to the person who told us no already. We already knew his opinion. That's why we asked you to give us your opinion. And he went and talked to a lawyer and he got back to us and basically said the same thing, no, all over again. It was really confusing. So that's why we're asking for the board for help. We are saying that these people are denying these requests for these reasons. We got 3 or 4 different ones. One of them was because classroom materials are intellectual property. There is no way it is IP. I mean, absolutely no way. And then we asked for clarification on that policy. And do you know what we got? Nothing. They even ignored the FOIA request and didn't even respond, which means they absolutely have to. The other thing is the law specifically states in the statute that all policy decisions are required to be disclosed. In other words, if you deny a request because of a policy, you need to tell us how that policy is implemented. It's in the black letter law. Okay, that is confusing and it needs to be fixed and addressed. So please open up the doors, let the people see what's going on. Is this district operating in secret or not? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. All right, I believe that that is it.